There are some parts of my testimony that may make people feel a little uncomfortable. I'm warning you now that this is probably going to be one of those parts. If that's the case, and you one of them people, then I suggest you turn the podcast off right now, because I've been instructed by the Lord to tell it, and that it includes all of it. He said, if you shorten your testimony, you shorten my glory. And I dare not make God's glory or power seem as if it can't reach everybody, because it can. And with that being said, I'm going to continue on, just like I've been doing. Somewhere in between one of them shows, my friend defiling me into alcohol and weed, I just snapped. And I wasn't the same no more. Before, I would read the Bible for 2 hours at a time. I would lock myself up in a room, and I wanted to know more about this God. I would cry, I would pray, and even laugh sometimes by myself while reading His Word. Even though I couldn't understand it all the time, I felt like it was doing something to me on the inside, and I wanted to keep on seeing what it was going to do. So I stuck with it. I was watching Creflo Dollar talk about grace on TV. I was reading books, and I was learning something. Until I took that trip to Memphis. Then, I don't know, I just stopped reading my Bible altogether. And honestly, I didn't want nothing to do with God. As far as I was concerned, you standing over me, watching all this stuff happen to me, and you not protecting me from none of it? So what kind of God are you? What kind of father are you? You might as well put yourself in the same category as my earthly father, because to me, you just like him. You may have the title of a father, but you ain't no father to me. That's how I felt. That's how I thought. That's how I lived. And I wanted nothing to do with him anymore. A Jewish man came to the Kroger I was working at one day, and everybody hated checking him out. They said he was the meanest customer that had ever came to the store. Well, y'all know me. I like a little challenge sometimes, so I said, okay, but the next time he come to this store, send him to my register and I'ma check him out. When he came a few days later, the manager, a white boy named Bill, turned off his register light and winked at me as if to say, good luck. He then told the man I would be checking him out instead, and he walked over there to my register. He looked at me up and down, and he wasn't smiling. Child, by the end of me checking him out, me and that Jewish man laughed. I cracked a couple of jokes. I smiled at him. I took my time bagging up his groceries while we were talking. I scanned the extra coupons I had at the register to help him get a little something extra off his total. And after that, that man asked for me every time he came to the store. And he wouldn't let nobody else check him up after that day. He requested me so much that they started calling that man my husband. Folks couldn't believe it. When everybody in the store saw how he changed, they said, how on earth did you get him to be nice? They went around saying, nah, he just likes you. That's why he's smiling. I said, that man don't like me, and that man ain't got no problem with nobody. He just tired of y'all throwing his groceries around and not bagging his stuff up right and doing him any old kind of way. And quite frankly, if y'all was doing my groceries like that, I'd be mad at y'all too. I mean, I'm just saying, be a little bit more nicer to people. It'll get you further in life. Anywho, I said all that to say, one day, when he came back to the store again, he wrote down my name on a piece of paper and told me he would tell me what my name meant because it was so peculiar to him. It just stood out. He came back to that store next week smiling like a chess cat, grinning from ear to ear. He said, I knew you were special. Do you know what your name means? I kept my head down and continued bagging up his groceries. He said, it means righteous daughter of God who marches forward with a loud sound. I can't lie. When I first heard it, my heart skipped a beat a little. And in that moment, I felt God was saying to me, you're mine. And regardless of all the hurt you have endured, you are still my daughter. And you, Takaya, you belong to me. But I was so angry at God, so I heard it and I didn't hear it. And even after this older Jewish man told me what it meant and I could feel my purpose in it when he said it, I acted like I didn't care. I smiled back at him and said, oh, that's nice. I can't remember if he said it was in Hebrew or what, but he was just so happy to tell me what it meant. And even though I pretended I wasn't happy, deep down, I was, 'cause I never forgot it. I'm the only Takaya I done ever met in my whole life, and I always thought I'd had a strange name, but I didn't know it meant all of that. Anywho, a few months after that, when I wasn't working at Kroger no more, I went to Uncle P one day and I said, "Uncle P, I want to change my name." Uncle P must have looked at me crazy and asked why. I told him, well, I don't want to change the way it's pronounced, just the way it's spelled. I wanted to take the Yah, the Y-A-H part off the end of it, and I wanted to add an A to it instead. Of course, I didn't know it back then, but don't you know that simple change in my name and adding that letter made the definition of my name go from being the righteous daughter of God to pretty princess. I know that may seem small to y'all, but now, 10 years later, looking back on it, I realized that it wasn't small at all. People would say, "Girl, it ain't that deep." And to that I would say back, "Yes, it is. Honey, demonic spirits will have you doing stuff you don't even know you doing if you let them. And they love people who are ignorant and who don't look too deeply into things, because surface level people are the easiest to get over on. You'll be walking around here doing stuff, thinking stuff, changing stuff, and you think it's your ideas, but it's theirs. And for years, I thought it was my own thoughts that made me want to change my name, until a few years later when I looked it up. And amazingly, for some reason, they wanted me to take the part of my name that represented God off. You know that's what that Yah, that Y-A-H part stands for, don't you? What a demotion. To go from being a righteous daughter of God who marches forward with a loud sound to a pretty princess. And whose princess was I finna be anyway? That's the question. 'Cause I wasn't finna be no princess for the kingdom of God, that's for sure. Anyway, so I changed my name. When I told the band about it, they loved it. They all thought it looked cooler than before, and I agreed. It does look cool to spell it that way, don't it? A little after that, I started seeing black shadows on my wall more. I started hearing sounds when wasn't nobody in the house with me but me. I started seeing demons' faces pop up in the computer screen when I was working on music or trying to write a song. I started coming up with lyrics that I know I would never write on my own. Now, I won't even go back and play them songs 'cause they too dark, they too sad. But back then, I didn't know. My music started changing, and even with all of that, I never picked up my Bible again. Corey tried to invite me to church and pray with me, and you know how I repaid him? I rolled my eyes while he was praying. I huffed and puffed every time he said anything about God, and quite frankly, I was going through too much to even hear about God, and I felt so alone. And as he was speaking, I would think to myself, where is this God? The night I broke up with Corey, I told him I was hearing voices and that I didn't understand what was going on with me. I felt like I was going crazy. I was scared, and I didn't know what to do. I mixed in my problems with the breakup so it wouldn't be so hard on him. And while I was talking, I was hoping he would understand. That was some type of man, y'all. Don't y'all know that man massaged my feet the entire time I was talking to him? Here I am, breaking his heart into pieces, and as I'm telling him I don't want to be with him anymore and that I can't take this and I don't know what's going on with me, he just went from one foot to the other. And when I was done talking, he stopped. He hugged me, prayed with me, kissed me on my forehead like he always did, and when he left out that front door, I never saw him again. I thought it would be better for him that he left anyway because I was too dark for him, figuratively speaking. He was so kind and peaceful and full of light, and I was over here battling stuff, holding in rage and mad at the world, and God and hate was brewing in me. We was too opposite. He was trying to tell me about the love of God, but to me, I'd already tried that, so I wanted a different God. And I got him. and I set them all up in front of my old God, and I served them faithfully. Alcohol, music, pornography, and weed. They were my gods back then. I just wasn't interested in Jesus no more. And after that night in Memphis, after I snapped, I couldn't allow my mind to believe in it, and I told myself, Takiyah, grow up. So I had to grow up, and I couldn't be little Takiyah no more, and fairy tales only work on children. So wasn't no Bible and hearing about no distant father in no sky who say he loved me but never showed up was finna satisfy me anymore. But I tell you what would satisfy me: alcohol, getting high, pornography, clubbing with my friends whenever I did go to Memphis, and this pretty girl named Puddin'. I was in Memphis hanging out one day with JJ and Cookie them after I left Corey, and they cousin Amy must have had this pretty friend of hers come over by the name of Puddin'. She was Hawaiian and black with long hair, fair skin, and eyes that sparkled like stars. Made her look like a Bratz doll to me. I was so drunk that the first night I saw her, I stared at her from across the room and told her how pretty she was. I remember her blushing and saying thank you and pulling her hair behind her ear and then laughing at me. After I saw that, I told her again, girl, you pretty, and I need you to be my girl. She really started blushing then, and she smiled at me even more. I said in my mind, gotcha. I don't remember what happened next, because shortly after that, I blacked out. I woke up the next morning to Puddin' and Amy standing over me as I was waking up, and Puddin' smiled at me. She said, Takiyah, you asked me to be your girlfriend last night. My head was still pounding, so I didn't know what the crap she was talking about. I kicked off these hot bed sheets Amy had, and I smiled back at her as she said this. I went into the bathroom to wash my face as I tried to shake this hangover off of me. And that's how my days went for a couple of months. Whenever I went to Memphis to visit, I went straight over to Amy's house because I was trying to get close to Puddin'. Found out a couple trips later that she was already talking to some other girl. I must have pulled her aside one day and said, what they got to do with me? Y'all know, just like men do. She thought it was funny, and it seemed to me like she kept trying to make me angry or upset. For some reason, her and Amy thought it would be a good idea to take me to some girl's house Puddin' was supposed to be dating. And here I was now mad in the car, boiling hot. I was frowning and asking myself, now why in the hell, bitch, did you bring me over here for? I don't want to see you with no other woman. She must have waited to see if I liked her enough to be as bold as I was when I was drunk that night, because after that night I was always playing it cool around her. But even though I was mad, I didn't give her the response she wanted. Instead, I said, aight, say no more. A few days later, I got this football player's number that went to their college, and I told Puddin', hey, drop me off at his dorm room. I'm trying to go watch a movie with him tonight. Y'all, that girl turned as red as a firecracker. She was huffing and puffing and telling me, I'm not taking you over there, Takiyah. I was like, woman, you better take me to this house or I swear I'm gonna get you. And she was just yelling back, no, I'm not. I was laughing on the inside and thought to myself, yeah, got you again. You better stop acting like you don't want me, girl. I'm gonna get somebody else. I guess that must have made her see I wasn't playing with her, because that night, you know what? It don't even matter, because her roommate came in the room and fell asleep, so I couldn't proceed. And by nature, I'm the romantic old school type, so I can't do no wild stuff like that with other folks in the room, you know. Nah, I gotta have flowers, music playing, candlelight, take you to a nice dinner, spoil you a little bit. I can't get into that doing something while somebody else right there next to us kind of wild thing. That's a little too wild for me. So I couldn't finish what I started. The next weekend, when I came back into town, we was at a gay club and I grabbed her by her hand and started spitting game to her, just like LeSean used to do to me. After a few moments of talking to her, she turned to me and said, Takiyah, stop. You trying to make me fall in love. I was like, duh, woman, don't you see that's what I'm trying to do? I mean, you got me out here running behind you like a chicken with his head cut off, and you the one with the knife, baby, so what you want to do? Man, it don't matter what I did. I could never get that girl to myself. It was always somebody else around, or somebody popping up, or somewhere she had to be. I mean, it drove me crazy. I said to myself, phew, now I know how men feel sometimes. Anyway, I went back to Nashville and got me a new girl. It was after one of my shows when this pretty curvy woman came up to me with some curly long hair and brown skin. She said, "I really love your music." I told her thank you, and I was finna go on about my night. But when she looked at me again and said, I really love your music," she put her curly hair behind her ear and bit her upper lip. This time I knew what she meant, so I smiled back at her and said, "Aw, you do?" When she blushed and said yes, I gave her my number because I knew what she was trying to tell me without saying it. Her name was Savannah. And just like Puddin', she was mixed too. She was from the Caribbean islands and her accent was so strong. Half the time, I couldn't even understand what that woman was saying unless she talked slow to me. She must have told me one day that her birthday was on September the 7th. And after telling me that, I looked straight at her and said, "I'ma marry you, girl." She blushed after I said it and made me remember it too, because every time we talked on the phone after that, she was telling me about some wedding plans or what she was gonna do and what we were gonna do. We talked on the phone for hours and hours at a time, and when I couldn't talk or was at the studio, she would text me throughout the day. We talked like that every day because she didn't live in Nashville. After a couple of months, she and I both agreed that the long distance was too much. So in a couple more months, when her semester was up, she would be coming to Nashville. She finished school down here, and we would get an apartment together. She said, "We gonna get married and have 2 kids together, Takaya." And I was definitely the man in the relationship, because every time she talked, I just responded with, "Whatever you want, dear," and she would just keep on talking. Man, that woman loved to talk. But I didn't mind, because I liked her. And that was it. That was finna be the tale of my life if I had anything to do with it. When I wasn't high, I was drunk. When I wasn't drunk, I was high. When I wasn't talking to her, I was at the studio. When I wasn't in the studio, I was somewhere watching pornography. Me, Savannah, music, weed, pills, perversion, and alcohol. Darkness was consuming me. And the sad thing is, I didn't even know it. I got a song I want to record.
You know what to do. Let me hear it and see if it's worth something.
Oh, it's worth something, Uncle P. It's about this love I got who make me feel so high.
Just let me hear the dang song.
Are you sure you want to hear it?
Money T.
Can you handle it?
You don't start singing, I'm going to hit you across the top of the head.
Can you dig it, baby?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure you're listening. It go like this. Woke up next to a squirrel. Thought I'd seen a dead girl. Feels like nothing's ever wrong. How you make me stoned. Cupid came, took all my money. I laughed, though none of it was funny. Walked 10 miles down the way. Only had enough for a one-night stay. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why do I feel stoned? I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why do I feel stoned? Your love is higher than the trees, so get me high as I can be. Love is higher than the trees, so get me higher, higher, higher.
Whoa.
I told you you like it.
Let's record it.
Let's do it then. Thank you for listening to the Godly Chick Podcast. Tune in next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear the continuation of Takaya's journey as well as her testimony. Don't forget to follow Godly Chick Ministries on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Godly Chick. That's GODLYCHIK. And always remember, when you know who's you walking with, it ain't hard to be a godly chick. Have a blessed day, and I look forward to having you all here with me again next week. Try to repent for my many sins.